One of the strategies for vocabulary is to use context clues, which is the information that surrounds a new word. So there are 4 types of context clues, and this is known as the SAGE approach, which is a reading strategy that requires one to use context clues. The SAGE approach stands for synonyms, antonyms, general sense of the passage or general context clues, and examples. So let's talk about synonyms first. So a synonym is a word that has the same or nearly the same meaning as another word. There can be some signal words used with synonyms, such as or, that is. An example sentence that uses a synonym that a reader could use to determine the meaning of a word: the dentist gave me laughing gas to alleviate or ease the pain of taking out my wisdom teeth. So you can see the word or is used here, and it immediately follows the word we are trying to determine the meaning of, alleviate. So a similar meaning for that word is ease. The next part of the SAGE approach is antonyms. So an antonym is a word that has the opposite meaning of another word. A reader can look for some signal words that might surround an antonym within a sentence. And these are words like but, not, unlike, in contrast, yet, and however. So here we have an example sentence. During dinner, Anne let out a loud burp that mortified her mother, but amused her friends. So the word that we're trying to determine the meaning of is mortified. And if you look after the signal word but, you have the word amused. And so the opposite of being mortified is amused. And so that helps the reader determine the meaning of the vocabulary word mortified in this example. The next approach within the SAGE approach is using a general context clue. So sometimes a reader will have to read the entire sentence or even read a few sentences ahead for more understanding to help understand the new word. Sometimes a definition is provided. Sometimes it can be a simple description. Sometimes the reader will need to use logic and reasoning skills. So in this example sentence, to ensure safety, written and road tests should be mandatory for everyone who seeks a driver's license for the first time. No exceptions should be allowed. Okay, the word that we're trying to determine is mandatory. And if you look further out in the sentence, no exceptions should be allowed. So they pretty much included a definition to the word mandatory as a general context clue in the example. The last approach using SAGE, the E stands for examples. And authors sometimes will show the meaning of a word by providing an example of the word. You can have some signal words that indicate an example is coming. For instance, such as, consists of, including. So if you look at the example sentence provided here, some authors use pseudonyms. For example, famous American author Mark Twain's real name was Samuel Clemens. So the word we're trying to determine the meaning of is pseudonyms, okay? And you have the key word, for example, that tells you what an example of a pseudonym is. So this author, Mark Twain, That wasn't his real name. He wrote under another name called a pseudonym of Samuel Clemens. So just be sure you use these methods as you are trying to determine the meaning of new words as you become a better reader.